Hey everybody, Chuck Barone here, Friday, September 23rd, 2022. And this show is going to be a little bit different today, guys. I'm recording it on Thursday. I'm actually going to be traveling today. I probably won't be able to get a new video made. I'm supposed to be in the air when that happens. And anyway, recording Friday's show today on Thursday, so I don't have a market wrap-up to give you guys. I can give you guys a rough idea of what I think will happen, which would be probably a crappy finish to a crappy week in the markets. I don't really see much reason for the markets to have a big bounce tomorrow, unless no news is good news, maybe. There's not really any. The economic stuff for the week is pretty much out. Everybody's still digesting Powell's comments and the papers the Fed released with their new data. And obviously the market has not liked what they've been learning so far this week, and I think there's really not much reason the market would have a much better day on Friday. So I'm guessing the stock market will be down, the bond market will also be down. The dollar probably going to be holding strong again, which will put pressure on metals. Oil will stay in its trough, and Bitcoin likely will too. The markets, it's just, I don't really see much of a reason for an eventful Friday in the markets. But I wanted to talk about some stuff today because this really was a pretty big week, guys. And I want to talk about what we learned over the course of this past week, especially these past few days with the Federal Reserve, how I think it's going to affect you guys personally, and some other stuff that you're going to see coming up as we work our way through this inflation and through this recession. Now, what did we learn this week from the Federal Reserve? Well, Powell came out pretty strongly, sounding very hawkish, and basically promised us some particular things. He promised that we probably would see more unemployment. The Federal Reserve is blaming hot employment as a big cause for this inflation. They're predicting 4.4% inflation next year, up from 3.7 where it is now. That would be 1.5 million people losing their jobs between now and whenever they hit their goal next year, if they do. So more unemployment coming. Powell, the Federal Reserve, has already pretty much promised that. They promised that the cost of money is going to go up. Okay, as rates go up, as they raise their overnight rates, we've already seen the 2-year sitting at 4.11 today. So the cost of money is going to be more expensive. It's going to cost more for credit cards, for car loans. The stuff we've been getting that's been like free money stuff is going to go away, especially car loan rates. Credit card rates are already on the way up over 18% and going to continue to rise. Every type of consumer debt, mortgages have already been crippled, with rates to this week finishing at over 6.25%. The prime lending rate now that banks use as a kind of their basis of everything. Remember when we used to talk about the prime lending rate? 6.25%. So cost of money going up, that's already a lock and been promised more of the same. Powell also pretty much promised us that we're going to have a real estate crash. Now, of course, he used the word correction, but in Fed speak, that means it's going to be a pretty bleak real estate market. So we already now been promised a real estate crash. He also, basically, because of the stance and what they're promising with rates, he's also promising pretty much likely continued losses in the stock market and the bond market as the higher rates start eating into profits, as older bonds that are having lower yields start getting dumped into the market for higher yielding stuff. The bond market and the stock markets are not going to like this. So these are all the things Powell has promised just over the past couple of days and the past little bit with all of their information. And here's the strongest thing, though. Here's the thing that I thought was most important that they promised. Powell promised an unconditional commitment to bringing inflation back down to 2%. Now, in Fed speak and translating this, I'm seeing that meaning that the economy be damned, consumer business pain be damned. They're going to do what they got to do to bring this inflation number down. Now, saying it and doing it is two different things. We'll see if he's got the balls for it, but he certainly has the stones to say it, and he sounded serious. We'll see if he actually follows through. Now, moving on to the next, though, we know these things that the Fed has promised us, right? More unemployment. We're going to have higher cost of money. We're going to have a real estate crash. We're going to probably have likely continued losses in stocks and bonds. And the Fed is committed to bringing inflation down. All of these factors be damned. Boom. Doesn't matter. Now, how does this affect you personally, guys? Well, the first thing I would look at is your job security. They're promising more unemployment. So look at your company with a real look at it. How's the company doing? Is the company doing well? How will the company fare if there is a severe recession? Are they, something that's going to be able to get through it okay? Or are they somebody that's going to have some difficulty? And what can you do if you want to keep that job to make yourself more valuable? And if you're not going to keep that job, start looking now while the market's still hot. At least if you're going to get out, do it quickly, because it looks like job security is going to become something that people are going to start thinking about. He also promised higher payments on any existing and new debt you take on. So if you have existing debt on credit cards and variable stuff, your payments on that are going up. Okay, so you might already be seeing that reflected in your credit card statements. If you go buying and trying to buy a new car, taking any new consumer debt, it's going to cost more to obtain that debt, and it's going to cost more to carry that debt. So get ready for higher payments, guys. It is what it is, right? He also promised us, and this will affect you, losses on your 401k and any stock and bond holdings you hold outside of retirement accounts. These rates are not going to be good for earnings, and the stock market ultimately is earnings driven. So you're going to see your 401k probably already down pretty good this year, continue to go down, and now they're going to take away another part of your wealth, because you're going to see real estate prices coming down pretty dramatically. So they're going to eat up a lot of your home equity. Okay, so you're going to have a little bit of worry about job security. You're going to be making higher payments on existing debt you have now, consumer debt at least, and you're going to feel less wealthy because you're going to have, your retirement accounts and your home equity are going to be going down. Okay, and the worst part about what you're going to be able to, the effect you're going to get is it's going to create an environment of uncertainty and fear. And uncertainty leads to fear typically, because people just aren't going to, everything is just going to be so up in the air. There's going to be talking heads talking like crazy on the TV, on the radio, and everywhere you go on the interwebs, your YouTube people you listen to. You're going to get so much conflicting stuff, your head's going to want to explode. These are the things that you can expect to see coming in you personally in your future. Now, here's some other things that we're going to likely see as this inflation and this recession takes hold around the world. And this is not only a U.S. thing, guys. This is happening globally. So here's some things I jotted down that I thought that you're likely to see coming up. You're going to see the world economy probably, I don't know if crash is too strong a word, but you're going to see the entire world economy have a recession. It's going to be especially bad in Europe and some other parts of the world. I think it won't be pretty here in the U.S. either, but it's going to be a worldwide event, which is typically not the way it is. Recessions are usually kind of a regional thing or confined to a specific country. To have the entire world swoon like that, it's going to be something a little bit different. You're likely going to see more military action, maybe not actual wars, but more military stuff happening around the world as governments posture, try to show their people they're strong, and this kind of pumps up the nationalism in countries, especially during tough times. They always pull this stuff out. So get ready to see probably more military events around the world. You're going to see around the world more protests and outcry from regular working people as just the cost of living, and we're not talking the extras going to an NFL game or, taking a private plane. We're talking just the cost of having a roof, food, and transportation is stuff that people can no longer afford, just these basic necessities, you're going to see more outcry, more protest, organized stuff. You're going to see more businesses and companies moving toward unionization as workers are desperate to figure out how to make ends meet. This is not going to be a great time, guys, okay? You're going to see, not a shock to anybody, more dysfunctional government. As our politicians, rather than trying to do anything to make the problems better, look at it more like political opportunity or advantage or disadvantage, and it just becomes more of a political posturing thing than a thing to do anything to actually help people, help working people, even help businesses who help working people get it together and have a chance. So that's, all of this stuff's going to be happening all at the same time, guys, okay? You're going to see more political turmoil around the world as economies crater, people get desperate. You'll see more and more of these demagogues and these loser politicians coming forward they'll have the simple solutions to these super complex problems. They'll have the answers, and they alone will be the people who can solve these problems. It's already kind of been more popular, and I think you're going to see more and more of that as things get worse and worse. You're going to see the largest shrinkage of the middle class here in the United States since we've really had a middle class. I think that it's orchestrated or not, you're going to see the people that manage to stay in the middle class are not going to be really in the middle class. They're going to be barely hanging on by their fingertips, and a lot of it will just be debt. Because they carry debt, they're in the middle class. So you're going to see this middle class in this United States, which was once our greatest asset. One of the greatest things about being an American and living in America was you could, if you were willing to bust your ass and do the right things, if you were clever and focused and worked hard, you could get ahead in this country. You could get the nice stuff. You could move forward and move from, the lower rungs of the ladder up to the middle class, up to upper middle class, and even who knows, there's always the number of X number per thousand who actually get rich, right? That kind of is going by the wayside here as we're less mobile as far as countries around the world with being able to move up the rungs of the ladder. So the middle class gonna shrink. And you're going to see people have a return back to basics in life where all this statusy stuff is going to go out the window, and you're going to see people going back to condemning debt, not making debt like a wonderful thing and calling it other things other than debt, like leverage and a million other wonderful phrases. Debt's going to be shunned. You're going to see a return to basics where people want to live within their means if that's possible. I think that's going to be a deflationary effect right there. But I think you're going to see more and more of that as people shun the expensive and the unnecessary for what's good and simple, right? You're going to see less status and more simple pleasures, where just actually going to a nice restaurant is going to be enough entertainment, not just the start of an evening, right? Here in Vegas, some of the stuff I see, what they charge now, some of these tourists, $200 or $300 for a show ticket, $90 for a steak, and if you want a potato, it's $15 more. I mean, you're going to see a lot of that get rejected, and status not mattering as much. The death of Louis Vuitton as a status symbol, and you're going to see people go back to what's sensible and normal, right? And you're also going to see a backlash to our overlords, the uber rich, the ultra wealthy, everybody wants to blame the government. They want to blame the Federal Reserve. They want to blame the, whoever in the government that they want, the president or the Congress or the Treasury or whatever. In my mind, I always go to, I think it was Shaquille O'Neal, where they were talking about some giant contract and he signed, and he was laughing. He said, well, I still would rather be the guy that signs my check, right? And who's the guy that who are the guys signing the checks for the people doing all this stuff, for the government, the donor class. There's going to be a big backlash against them because everything, since they realized they could buy the government, they have. Everything's been skewed their way for such a long time now. I think you're going to see a backlash that's already kind of really started. There's a lot of little movements around, unionization all getting popular again. But anyway, you're going to see a lot of changes coming up throughout this recession, guys. I think this is one of those epochs, I guess is the right word, where just when you come out the other side, things are different than when you went in. And I think that's going to be kind of like that now. The baby boomers, I'm barely at the very end of it, going to go away, and the younger generation is going to move into power. And it's going to be interesting to see how we change as a society through all of these giant events that are happening right now while we're living, watching, and being a part of history. Anyway, guys, that's it for Friday. Big game for the Bills on Sunday. We got the Dolphins in Miami. We're going to kick their butt. Yay, go Bills. Have a great weekend. Take some time to have some fun and do the things that are important to you, that are good for you, that give you peace of mind and relax you. We got plenty of stuff to worry about Monday through Friday, guys. Take time for yourselves. Do the things that give you pleasure. We'll be back on Monday. Until we talk again, guys, take care.